Alright, y'all, it's that time again. Get your Level Up Sketchbooks ready. Woohoo! Let's do this. Alright, so what is up, everybody? This is Marshall Lee of DonkeyJawProjects.com, and this is the Level Up Sketchbook we're talking about here. It's a sketchbook where we practice the act of making comics. Once again, I got that quote from my buddy Mike Emirates, and here I'm practicing arms, and I'm practicing them from other comic books with different styles. I started with Ryan Ottley, and I didn't film that for whatever reason, not sure why, and then I take notes as I kind of go and try to learn the way they draw arms or whatever it is I'm studying at the moment. And then now you can see here I'm working on copying from Jim Lee, and you know, he's got really great anatomy, and he renders kind of in a really comic booky way. It's a style that many people have kind of been inspired by, and there was a lot of people who kind of had a almost Jim Lee type of style for a long time, even to this day. And so I don't know, he's got really solid anatomy and proportion, and just really solid artist. He's a great person to learn from, and also to see kind of the style as well. So you know, that's what I'm kind of doing here. I'm trying to learn the muscles, and when we're doing this, and you can see now I'm working on Jack Kirby style, and you know, his is much more abstract and almost shortcutty, and I'm sorry I was drawing off the page there, but here we're kind of learning how comic book artists draw these things. Not so much, you know, trying to draw from life and understand exactly, you know, the proportions and anatomy, but more how to kind of have a little bit of a shorthand, the way that comic book artists do it. And you know, comic book artists kind of, they find interesting ways to pose their arms and hands and whatever it is they're drawing, the bodies and stuff. So it's good to kind of learn from them. You want to do life drawing as well, so you can understand, you know, exactly how it actually works. But also, if you want to draw in a style that is more cartoony or more, you know, again, comic book style, I keep saying it, but you know, you have to study from the masters who do it, and it really helps. You'd be surprised what you actually learn when you start kind of diving into this kind of practice, and you can see how different artists translate these things, you know, and that's kind of what I'm aiming for here. So you can see what I've done here. Like I said, Jack Kirby, Jim Lee, Ryan Ottley, they all have very different approaches. Ryan Ottley's a little more gestural, Jim Lee is a little more anatomically correct. Jack Kirby is very much abstract and kind of has a certain shorthand and focuses more on form and gesture. Alright, so here we're kind of doing the same thing we did before, but we're doing it with poses and, you know, just really dynamic gestures and poses and things like that. Right here I'm working from Jack Kirby once again, and a friend of the channel, Shell Presto, she said something in the comments of one of the videos, the other Level Up Sketchbook video. She said, you can't learn Jack Kirby poses from life models, and I thought that was really interesting, and it's so true. There's certain gestures and stuff that in fact are kind of not very correct, and different artists exaggerate in such a way sometimes where, you know, you actually can't move the body that way that well, or if you do, it's just a rare occurrence that you will. So here you see me working on something from Eric Larson. Now this is pretty rough anatomically, but it's also very powerful and exciting of a gesture, you know. So, you know, I don't know, I think it's interesting. Like, look at that. Pretty cool, right? There's a bunch of gestures in his Spider-Man books that are really wonderful wonky and crazy. Some of them aren't as good as this actually, but you know, I know Eric Larson is actually a huge fan of Jack Kirby, and so, you know, he definitely takes a lot of inspiration from Jack, and Jack is one who exaggerates and pushes gesture way past the realms of you know, human actual agility, and I don't know. But it doesn't always have to be. Again, we're like looking at shorthand too, and now with this gesture you could see like his chest is straight up and down. It's more focused on shape and everything. This is Jay Lee. He's an artist who used to be prominent in the image days and stuff, and I think he still does work too actually, but it's a different style kind of. You can see I'm trying to get away from the glare here, you know, to try to show you the, there you go, you can see the pose there, and it's more based on shape than anything else. You know, it's not so much on the anatomical things, and you know, also just learning how to do good poses, and again, to translate them though into pen and ink or pencil is not, you know, always the same as just, you know, the way they would teach you in an art class and stuff. You're not necessarily trying to draw what you see, you're trying to translate what you see when you're drawing comic books into something that makes sense and looks really cool. So again, I'm focusing on practicing from the classics here, and this is more correct anatomy and stuff, but it's also something you want to learn and learn from comics from. So here you go. Alright, so here we are studying specifically faces, kind of like the first exercise, but this time we're focusing on one specific artist. I chose Ryan Ottley. He does a very interesting comic book style, but it's not too crazy detailed, so it's also kind of cartoony. It's just a very slick style, it's a very expressive style. He's not afraid to get all different kinds of angles and poses, and he does not have same face syndrome. There's some parts where I'm putting in a little more detail because I'm actually also getting cues from the colorist. I don't think it's Ryan Ottley, but you know, so where some of the shadows lie, I'm just looking at that to see kind of where the colorist would throw the shadow, but where maybe I would do it with ink, or maybe I would even do it with color eventually, you know. And I have a variety of different faces here, you know. There's kind of the typical superhero face from different angles, and then, you know, I have an older man face later on, you'll see, and also like a young kid face, and then a few female faces. So I'm really just looking at how Ryan Ottley does faces all around, and I think that's like a really cool way to kind of study these things and get used to, I don't know, it's good to practice from one single artist sometimes, as opposed to the part where earlier on where I was kind of comparing I was doing arms from different artists. So that in that stage, I was trying to look and see how are the different ways that comic creators would do an arm, so I can kind of pick and choose the parts that I like from each and kind of find a way to do it my own way. With this, it's more of a study on a specific artist's formula, and really trying to dive deep into exactly how they would approach any face. And you know, I could even go deeper and just say, how does Ryan Ottley draw women? And it's kind of cool. You know, I just grabbed one comic, and I only filled up one page here, but you know, you can, I would say, you know, keep going, you know, even past one page, and draw every single face from one comic. Try that and see if you don't get a little better. And I'm seeing where he's placing different things, you know, how he does shorthand. You know, some people don't put every single tooth when they draw teeth, but he does in some cases, and in some cases he doesn't. And it's interesting to see how he does that, and you know, how he changes the proportions from different kinds of people, you know. So yeah. This is kind of my study here of him specifically. If you're interested in learning more about the Level Up Sketchbook, check out the video down to the left, and also some more videos about making comics down to the right there. And definitely go over to the Discord and hang out with the Donkey Jaw Projects community. We got a lot of cool, awesome stuff going on there.